to see all problems from various perspectives. And so if you're sitting in one seat in American Electric Power and you deliver results, it's likely you're going to move into another area that might be a big stretch for you. They also get to know their customers better. When you're a national company with footprint in 11 states, you have to understand what citizens in West Virginia may want that's different from citizens in Ohio, that's different from citizens in Texas. So I think colleges and universities can learn a lot about customer satisfaction and about rounding out leadership on the campus by having them experience different positions on campus. Campuses, too, have a lot to teach American enterprise. I know many companies, particularly in this economy, are having to drift away from basic research and focus on applied research. American campuses are a terrific place for basic research to take place at a low investment from American enterprise. As well, college campuses are terrific in analytical thinking, and many times they're the ones that see trends or are able to assess trends more quickly than corporate America can. And then ultimately, lifelong learning. I think campuses do a great job of stimulating curiosity and constant learning from the associates that they support. If that first step happens, where campuses start engaging with American higher education institutions so that there's true learning versus the polarization, then I think two terrific things can happen as an outcome of that. The first is, at our last commission meeting, Art and I got to witness an exchange between a very senior corporate executive and a retired president from a very prestigious university. And at that last meeting, the retired president of the university said, the problem is we just don't have enough investment. And if your company would commit to investing $400 million, which is what you currently spend elsewhere, with us, then we could do a lot more for you. And the corporate executive looked up and said, I would gladly commit that $400 million to you if I didn't have to spend it on training the graduates from your colleges so that they could be effective employees. We ended our meeting, but I often wonder what would have happened if that conversation had been allowed to continue, so that we ended up with something like an articulation agreement, which colleges are very familiar with, so that we could really rescore the relationship between the private sector and its investment in American higher education. So learn from each other, understand your respective strengths, craft new relationships where commitments are made to each other, and then last, leverage those strengths to make sure that you fix K through 12 in your respective geographies. Corporate foundations, by and large, have shifted in their philanthropy away from post-secondary education to K through 12. We also see that many American campuses are engaging in either teacher reform, teacher education, or even in the charter school movement. Imagine the leveraging of those strengths. So what does that mean for you, those of you that are going to go back to your home districts? The first request I would have of you is don't let yourself get pulled to one side or the other. You have a lot of vested interests that are going to pull you on the side of reform is needed versus protect the status quo. What is the role of the institution vis-a-vis the workforce? Don't let yourself get polarized. Help them find that middle ground. The second is, if that middle ground is not easily found, facilitate that conversation between enterprise in your geographies and the post-secondary institutions in your geographies. And stay engaged in that conversation until that middle ground is found. And then last but not least, work with these partners to engage in public K through 12 reform. I had the privilege of sitting in the Federal Affairs workshop this morning, and one of the state elected officials said, we keep talking about standards as if standards are the answer. But in my experience, in my geography, if you get two school districts together and you get them to hammer out standards, you end up with the least common denominator. Choice is what gives you the chance to really get standards up. We have to have that conversation around K through 12. Let me close by saying earlier I mentioned that there were two comments in that ALEC brochure that really stood out for me. The first was the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of remediation. The second one is that restatement that this could be the first generation in this country where we actually lose ground and the new generation is less literate than the generation that preceded it. That's not what this country was built around. That's not what we stand for. And sadly, if it happens, it will have happened in our watch. And so my request of you would be, what is it that we can do to change the conversation so that it really is about that common ground and leveraging our strengths? Thank you very much. And Art, I'll turn it over to you.
Right.